Dc57, The City of the Lambs. Soul-touching and life-enhancing stories. The City of the Lambs. The history of the City of the Lambs is covered in mystery, scary shadows and dark clouds. But one thing was for sure, that it was always night, without a sun, and even without a moon. The inhabitants of the city that was surrounded by 7 rings of very high city walls had found ways to live in this cold and grim environment by inventing lamps. It had begun with the invention of candle-lit lamps and oil lamps that gave them a sense of direction and which created some warmth. Everybody feared the darkness, and nobody dared to go beyond any of the city walls, because one would depend only on the lamp that had a limited capacity of life before it would die. And then what? Each lamp that helped people to see in the darkness, and which gave some warmth, had as well an additional purpose, as each model was associated with a certain profession. Yes, each trade, like the mothers being the keepers of the home, the carpenters, the shoemakers, the blacksmiths, the bakers, the bankers, the physicians, the cleaners, the police force, and the politicians, they all had their own specific model of lamps. Through the years it had become a status symbol to own the most beautiful and expensive lamp in their trade. And it was also that fashion lamps became part of a flourishing business for the lamp makers. The makers of the lamp were the wealthiest of all and kept everybody in the game of buying new lamps. The latest fashion in the City of the Lamps had become to have as many trades as possible, and going with that as many different lamps, and of course having the latest and most expensive lamps. This was to show off how smart and wealthy one was, but forgetting that life had just become about name and fame, and forgetting that one needed to work more and more, which resulted in the downfall of quality living and the increasing of disease. There was no time, however, to think about all this, as everybody was so obsessed with having as many lamps as possible. Some individuals looked like walking Christmas trees, as devices on their shoulders and around their waist and other parts of the body and clothes were invented to wear as many lamps as possible. The fact to not go beyond the city walls and the fear of darkness stayed dominant in their life. For one had to close one's eyes before going to sleep. This was the hardest, and many used music and alcohol and drugs to go to sleep, or they tried to stay up as long as possible through any other form of entertainment than that they totally fall unconsciously asleep. The strangest of all was that they even had forgotten that the city that now was packed with lamps was actually a city in darkness, without any sun and without any moon. One day a traveler by the name Misty had come to the city, and that was unfamiliar, as nobody ever showed up from the outside the city walls. But most unusual was that this stranger had no lamp at all, but was surrounded by a light, and many were afraid of this man and didn't dare go near to him. However, for those amongst them who had been trying to conquer the fear of darkness and had tried to go beyond, they were fascinated with Misty, as if a light was shining from within him. It attracted those seekers to this man as moths that are attracted to a lamp, and they called him Misty, the guiding lamp. Those who came in contact with Misty were reminded about the fact that they actually were living in total darkness, being a result of a much distorted history. He explained that the darkness had come to encourage them to find the city of eternal light, which most of them believed was just a fairy tale, and everybody had been just busy with lamps, professions, power, and wealth in their city. Those seekers that really were inspired by this light being realized that he must have found the city of eternal light, and asked him what to do in order to find this as well. Misty instructed those who were sincere in the art and science of meditation. He gave them a mantra that consisted of a repetition of very special names that were connected to the energy current of everlasting light and life. This mantra was to replace the thoughts of the world, and with closed eyes, every morning they had to sit still outside the first structure of city walls. This was inside an enormous labyrinth of streets with ruins of homes of the past that called up additional thoughts and memories, and through which one day they had to find their way to the next labyrinth in between the second set of city walls. Each morning for several hours they had to come at peace with the darkness, and even learning to enjoy it, because even when they opened their eyes they would not see anything, as everything outside the city walls was pitch black. The adventure was to wait and sit until one day a light would appear in the far distance, and he told them that that light would guide them through all the labyrinths between the 7 city walls, and then to continue to find the city of eternal light, the place where they all actually had come from at one point in time in the history of creation. And although the method was simple, the task was difficult, because the mind always wants to go back to its familiar thoughts and things, and even the mantra in the beginning worked against the seekers of light. They fell asleep by repeating these names, but slowly but surely they became their help to stay awake and aware. It was not easy, however, because as soon one was thinking about the things in the city of the lamps, they would be out of the inner journey. Many got discouraged and stopped the search, and continued their normal life in the city of the lamps. The transformation and change that took place for each individual that continued was a result of a light that was slowly starting from within their own body and reflecting itself outside, like the light that surrounded Misty. Every day for those who kept on practicing, the light became brighter and nearer, and at the same time the obsession with the external lamps decreased, and they were able to live more in harmony, and even able to see that light within themselves during the day and in others in the city of the lamps. Only then they realized that Misty could walk around without a lamp, because he saw an eternal light which was hidden within him and within everyone. It was all just a matter of time, as Misty promised them, that he would meet them in that light, and that together they would travel individually with him through the labyrinths, and finally to the city of eternal light, a city without lamps and obsession, but a city of total peace, love, and happiness. It was a longing that actually every citizen had, but their search had been trying to find that light through being busy with lamps, which didn't work. Those who truly believed and kept on putting in the effort, the adventure to find the city of eternal light continued. And for those who succeeded, it was the discovery that they themselves were full of light like Misty, and as the eternal light completely appeared, they found out that the city of eternal light had been there all the time, just outside the 7 city walls of the city. The light had been closer than they ever had imagined it to be. They had not been able to see it because their own inner light had been covered, like a black cover over the sun. It was only through the guidance and by following the instructions of Misty that they had been able to enter the city of eternal light, because sitting in meditation that had cleansed their darkness and black cover away forever, and they had no use anymore for any lamps. What the story could bring us. We are all light beings, souls and children of that eternal light, and compared to that light we are in the darkness at the moment. However, when we are able to rediscover that light within ourselves and learn to follow it, everything will light up in and around us, and one day we can go back forever by merging into that eternal light. A light that had been given and has been given so many names like God and Allah, Jehovah, the Almighty, and go on. But this energy is beyond the realm of mind and matter and has no form or name. The human body, with its main 7 energy centers, is like the city walls, but not for protection, but they have become our prison. We try to find real happiness within the realm of mind and body in the world, but we will not be able to do so, for the creation is created in duality, constantly changing and bound to time. Only that light and being one with it again will bring us that true and everlasting happiness. Quote, "If thy whole body therefore be full of light, having no part dark, the whole shall be full of light, as when the bright shining of a candle doth give thee light." Luke 11:36. End of quote. Quote, "For light I go directly to the source of light, not to any of the reflections." Peace Pilgrim. End of quote. Quote, "People are like stained glass windows. They sparkle and shine when the sun is out, but when the darkness sets in, their true beauty is revealed only if there is a light from within." Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. End of quote. Quote, "You are not a body, you are not a mind, you are infinite light, infinite intelligence, the radiance of all beings, the Dharmakaya, the endless light of creation." Rama, Dr. Friedrich Lenz. End of quote. Quotes from Maharaj Sawan Singh Ji, Spiritual Gems. "When all of the attention will be inside the focus, light will come automatically. Light is there even now, but your attention is shaky and out of focus. Man is much like a covered lantern. There is light in him. Light is there inside already, only we are out. When we will go in, we will see the light. The nearer we are to concentration or the focus, the nearer we are to the light. Light, like sound, is already within us. It never goes out." End of quote.